we are going to launch in and drink some beers. Welcome everybody to Tanked Up. It's episode 260. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
Hello.
Adel.
Hi.
And we're joined by another guest. This week we're joined by Andy from Vault City. Hey Andy, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing alright, thanks. How you guys getting on?
Good. Yeah, good mate. Good, thank you.
Good. For Tuesday, is it Tuesday? I don't
Yes.
know. Days of the week are weird these days.
Yeah.
I mean, what year is it?
Yeah.
It's all over the shop at the moment.
Funny anecdote. I saw my aunt briefly, and she handed me a card, and I immediately started opening it, and she was like, "It's for your birthday." I was like, "What?" I've got a birthday this week, and I didn't even know. So she's like,
Amazing.
I just thought she was giving me a card because I hadn't seen her in ages. But, yeah.
Nice.
What is time?
Nice. Andy, you very kindly sent us all some beers to drink along with you tonight.
Yes.
So,
I have a small confession on that front.
Oh.
I may have already drunk one of them, and I may not be able to join in with one of the beers. That's fine. We'll get started and see how far we get.
I mean, all right.
You sent us like a range of beers, so we'll try and check off as many as we can as we go through. We'll open some beers first, and then we'll launch into Vault City, what you guys are up to, what you guys do
Cool.
first. So I thought I'll probably start with the lower beer first. I have already drank, I say I actually mean my wife, has already drank both of
That
them.
happens sometimes.
The watermelon session sours. I cracked one open, and I said, "You'll probably like this," to my wife, and she said, "Oh yeah, I do." And and then, as the night went on, and I had more beers to drink, and she went, "Could I have that other watermelon sour?" It's like it's literally the only beer we have found to share together that she has wanted more of. We did try the you guys did an OJ one as well.
IPA.
Yes, and I really liked that, and she liked it, but only to have
Enough
a very
to
small amount. She was like, "I like the flavour, but I can't drink a lot of this."
Yeah, I'm not going to go for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to crack open the passion fruit session sour, which is 4.5%.
Brill. That's what I've got right in front of me. I cracked it just as we hit record there, so you'll have to bleep that one out.
Perfect. That's good. Adel and Lucy, are you guys having the watermelon?
We are having the watermelon.
Nice.
And in true tanked up fashion. So it's a 4.1% sour. When we devised the session sour range, our vision was to create the most refreshing beers for the warmer months. Now, as the sun makes itself known again, we're releasing our most mouth-watering modern sour brewing yet. Succulent watermelon is the perfect partner for our house mixed culture. Juice bomb exotic fruit meets tropical fermentation character in a light and spritzy beer. Settle in for a sour session.
Oh man, it's so strange hearing my own words spoken back to me. When I sit in my little brewery corner and I type away on my laptop, and then somebody has a beautiful voiceover effect for them. That was glorious. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Stumbled a couple times. I'm also not used to reading. I was like, well, I didn't know you wrote it, but I'm like, I am literally just telling you about your beer. I was like, well, this is a weird moment.
Cool. Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
we get
of course,
to tell.
It's for our listeners as well.
Exactly.
Of course.
For everyone else. The passion fruit also has some flavour text, which I can reel off very swiftly. A favourite fruit of ours to pair with our modern sour beer gets a session sour all of its own. Passion fruit. Tart, sweet and heady tropical fruit rushes from the glass in full force, dominating the aroma while waves of exotic flavour crash over your palate. Our house mixed culture has a tropical ester profile, which lends a hand to the clean vibrance of the passion fruit. Settle in for a sour session.
Cool. Oh man, this is great. Tough and tailored as well.
That's it. I mean, we're always here for paid gigs. It's fine.
I'll get you guys back on our podcast next week.
Nice.
For sure, yeah.
There's we don't have a podcast. I
kind of figured.
So these are two of our session sours. So we'll kind of dive straight in there. May as well just get straight on with the beer. We both the descriptions very tactfully. I'll hold my hand up and admit mentioned the Session Sour range, the modern sour beer, and also our house mix culture. So they're 2-3 things that I try and mention on all the bottle labels and try and talk about with all of our beers when we launch them. And the Session Sour series actually came to being about this time last year. So summer was just kind of creeping around. Before that, all the beers had been a good bit higher in percentage, kind of 7% plus, something like that. And it stemmed from kind of, we want to stay, I don't want to say hydrated, but maybe refreshed at the brewery when it gets a little bit warmer in the summer. And looking for inspiration of flavors that are just really refreshing, vibrant, fun, that we could put into a smaller format, smaller ABV, make it more sessionable, like you're going out to the park. The idea with these beers is more like grabbing a 6-pack and going to the beach, rather than getting a sixth of a bottle at a bottle share. You know, that's right. We'll get to those, don't worry. But we're definitely going in a different kind of direction with the vibe of this beer. It's for a different occasion, so we wanted it to be presented quite differently. So they're in smaller format bottles. They're lower ABV. We're able to put them out a little bit more cheaply as well, so you can have a few of them and you know, not hurt the wallet too much. And for me, this is my favorite series is the Session Sours, because you can sit back and drink them all night, and I can still get up with my kid in the morning without a headache. The passion fruit is the most recent one, and the watermelon was the previous release. So we have a kind of 2-week turnaround where we launch 3 beers every 2 weeks, and they come from our 3 different series. So we have modern sour beer as a bit of a catch-all, and then we have our Session Sours. We have up at the other end at kind of 10% plus, and usually based on baked goods or some kind of crazy combination of fruit, is our silly sours. So that's getting silly into that territory. And in the middle, we have our serious sours. Internally, we were calling them normal, but 7%, 300 grams per liter, crazy fruited sour beer is pretty far from normal. So we decided to stick with serious. So we've got the Session, the serious, and the silly series to get through, which is great fun to say with my Scottish accent and my lisp. I don't know if anybody caught on that.
No, but, not at all.
Yeah, please don't mention it.
It's all right. I've got a lisp too. So I will not even attempt to say that. Yeah, I'm not even attempt it.
The number of times I've said all those S's in quick succession, no less.
Seashells, seashells. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, 2 really fun beers. The Session Sours have kind of evolved a little bit naturally into being typically just one fruit. That was kind of a progression over time. We started out with a cloudy lemonade Session Sour and a Ribena, spelt differently, but a riff on Ribena soft drinks. And then since then, we've done a load of different stuff. We did a Havana Sour, which was like a mini mojito, which is one of my favorite ones. That was actually a beer that I totally cocked up. And we can swear, right? We have the
E. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I can go for it. Fucked up that beer in the best way. So I came into the brewery and there was a pallet of lime juice, and I was like, oh yeah, Steve orders in the amount of fruit, and I put it in the beer, and jobs are good. And so I put in 600 kilos of lime juice into this one Session Sour beer, and it was only supposed to have 200.
Oh,
so I went a little bit over the top on that one. We may have not made much profit on that beer, but it was fucking delicious. So I'll take it for the win.
Hey, that's a win.
Yeah,
leaves a lot of beers there for you to drink as well. That's it's fine.
It's all good, right?
It's science.
That is hard science.
Ben, do you want to tell us about what that tastes like?
Yeah, how are you enjoying the passion fruit?
It's really, really nice. It is sort of a very big passion fruit flavour, as you would expect, but it's got this like nice, I suppose, kind of like tartness to it, sort of right at the start, but it dries out really quickly, but everything kind of still sticks around. So it's not like it dries out and it fades away. It just lasts and lasts and lasts for days. And I'm going back more because, again, I'm so dry and I'm talking more now, and it's like, right, I want some more of this. But when I have some more, whilst it is a big kind of, it's a big rush of flavour. It is a big refreshment. But then it just sits there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I could, I could sit this here for 10 minutes and slowly kind of sip it, but it's calling me.
The siren's call. There's the kind of beers that we make and the profiles that we look for in our beers when we're producing them. It's all about balance, and a lot of sour beer. I'm sure you guys have tried plenty of sour beers recently. A lot of people are putting a lot more of them out, but a lot of the time they can be very, very dry. Yeah, and they can be quite, I want to say, aggressive in their acidity as well. Whereas we look to actually have quite a bit of sweetness, residual sweetness from the fermentation left in our beers to help balance that acidity. The acidity isn't crazy either. It's definitely, like you said, a tartness. That's the kind of direction it should lead into that fruit flavor. So we want it to be all about the expression of that fruit, and not having so much sour it'll melt your back teeth, and not being so dry it's like licking boot leather. And don't get me wrong, I fucking love those kind of sour beers as well, but that's not what these beers are about. These beers are about having fun and big flavors and being a bit more kind of accessible and approachable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, even Lauren said it last week on our podcast. She was saying these are a good introduction to sours because they have that sweetness.
Yes,
And,
yeah, definitely.
Spoilers, I opened up the blueberry and lemon drizzle earlier. My mom, I let her taste some of the beers. She's not a beer drinker, but I let her taste some of the beers.
Yeah.
She hates sours. And I said, you'll get there. You'll get there in time. But this was probably the lemon, the blueberry and lemon drizzle is probably the only one that she didn't just have a, immediate reaction to and said, oh, that's actually quite sweet. My immediate, thought of it was like, yeah, that's got some sweetness to it. So it's like, here you go, have a taste.
Yeah, a little.
So this is the gateway drug.
Yeah, that's it. There's it's amazing. We're kind of a lot of people who enjoy our beers and tell us great things about our beers, which is lovely to hear. They're either people that don't like sour beer and have ended up really liking sour beer because they've been craft beer drinkers and stumbled across this, or they don't like beer, full stop. And this is a big thing for me. I've worked for a couple of sour breweries before Vault City, and something I've seen time and time again, that people that actively don't like beer generally don't like bitterness. And that's what they're saying when they say they don't like beer. But people who like wine and like cider and like mixed drinks, they like fruity flavors and they like sweetness, and they like acidity. A lot of wine has a lot of acidity in it to lower degrees. So all of a sudden, all of these flavor profiles are perfectly positioned to bring people into beer and kind of reverse in the back. I always think of it a bit like a spectrum or a journey, if you like, where your typical craft beer journey is, you started drinking lagers when you're a teenager, or in my case, it was vodka Coke because of the heathen. And then you might get introduced to like an IPA or a real ale if you go down that kind of route.
Yeah.
If that's the kind of the gateway, as it were. And you move on and you probably go through a big stout phase where all you drink is stouts. If you're unlucky like me, you have a barley wine kind of segue and you lose 6 months of your life. And then at the end of the road, you've got this kind of pinnacle of nerdy craft beerdom, which is sour beer. And that's definitely how I got there. I think that's how a lot of people get there. But there's this total other end of the spectrum of people that don't like beer and have nothing to do with that journey at all, who end up drinking sour beer and almost coming in the back door, which I think is really interesting melting point. It's like super geekdom. And also, don't give a fuck, I'm just here for the tasty bit. Which is great at beer festivals, you have a real mix at your stand.
Nice. Yeah, I can completely see that, especially with the session sours as well. Just concentrating on that kind of one flavour and having a rotating list. If people, my wife goes, I like watermelon, so what's the chances are I will like this flavour? And she absolutely did. And you can see how now, anytime I go to the bottle shop, she's going to say,
just
get
watermelon
a couple of those ones.
those watermelon ones, that'd be good.
I just have to have a big back order of them, won't I suppose?
Can I just say, have you ever thought of cutting a deal with Yankee Candles? Because the smell
thank you.
is just unbelievable.
We pack a lot of aroma into our beers. It's a testament to the stupid amount of fruit. It is quite literally a stupid amount of fruit that we put into these beers.
600 kilograms in every one.
That's fine.
But even when I cracked it and poured it and put it down, I could still smell the watermelon from
across
a foot and a half away. It was just like, oh, yep, that's there. Oh, this is amazing. And it's so
amazing smell.
Yeah, it's a light watermelon, and it's clearly like a very juicy one, both in the both in the taste and the nose. It's not it's that wetness of a watermelon you don't get when you get like a watermelon candy. Because it's just so jammed with artificial version of watermelon that you just you're like, I get you're doing this, but
I get it, but hard pass.
But this is actually what it reminds me of is like when I was a child and you had the big watermelon. And instead of getting cut up, you just took the thing and you just kind of did the I mean, you didn't say fuck it then, or maybe you did. But you just sort of like ate through the middle first, and you were kind of nose deep in it,
All of
and
the chops.
and then as you pulled away, it was like that breath of just like watermelon infused air, like, and just like that the like dripping off of. I feel like that's the depth of that. Even though it's airy, it's that's the moment it reminds me of. Is just this really solid, juicy watermelon without eating a watermelon, if that makes sense. It's that like moment before or after.
Yeah, watermelon's a really, really tough one. If you break watermelon down, it's basically a little bit of sugar and a lot of bit of water, as the name would suggest. So it's actually a really difficult fruit to brew with. So the guys on the production, I don't have any hand anymore after the Lime incident of making any of the beers. So I'm quite happy to say these beers kick ass. You know, it's not my sweat and blood and tears anymore that go into them. So yeah, I like to take my hat off. I won't because I've got my lockdown haircut, but tip my cap, I should say, to Ravi and the guys in production who put them together, because the fruit flavor in these is incredible.
Yeah. It when you were talking about childhood memories, Adil, like I'd say childhood, but probably also in adulthood, when you just smell a really nice soap and you're just like, this smells so good, I'm gonna eat it as well. Yeah, and it's like, oh no, I made a.
You always
I've made a terrible mistake.
But the taste of this, you're still getting that watermelon, which yes is even just eating it, like it's very subtle flavor, as you say. It's more water than anything else, rather than sweetness. But you're still getting a bit of sweetness with this. You're getting. I can't even imagine how hard it is to infuse that like kind of flavor from watermelon and all that fruit in it. Because
like really difficult ones, blueberries.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a blueberry beer, but they're just water and sugar.
Yeah. But you're still getting that all those flavors, and it's like it's let's say not too sour, that not mouth puckeringly sour.
Yeah, bro, that's exactly where we want it.
Great session beer, as you say. Like,
yeah, that's definitely taps out sunshine.
I also like how it's like the taste curve is like a bit of sour and that watermelon flavor, and then the sour fades. You actually get this slight moment of maltiness.
Yeah.
With because this watermelon is just so subtle, you can notice the malt before the tart kicks in.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice. I mean, I'm a sucker for taste curves. I like the narrative of when a beer sort of says, I've got this and that and this, and has an order. Yeah. And God, I'm like a wank, aren't I? I'm sorry.
We'll get you a Venn diagram.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I like that it starts a little tart, so you're getting that sour, but actually the core tartness is coming a bit later, and it's after this slight malty moment and because of that difference, you again, the watermelon is such a subtle flavor, and it's not over the top. You're getting this, yes, watermelon, yes, beer, it's also a sour, and kind of like Ben was describing, it sits with you. The tartness goes away just enough that you're like, I'm fine. I have a bit of this watermelon at like the top of my mouth. I've got a bit of this touch of this maltiness, but I've got that sour aftertaste. My mouth is a little dry, so why not requench? But if I wanted to sit with that flavor, I haven't lost it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I agree with that. Like I'm not a massive fan of beers that are quite sweet, but it's like it doesn't have that cloying sweetness. No, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that sweetness that sticks around for a long time.
Yeah, that's the acid and sweet together is like such a great combo, because just like you're saying, that sweetness can be really cloying really quickly, and acidity as well can be a little bit puckering and and quite difficult as well. But when you have them in balance, you have that nice sweetness, and then it basically just gets washed away by the sour. And then afterwards, you want a little bit more sweet, and you want a little bit more sour. It's I always describe drinking sour beers like eating Tang-fastic sour sweets. It's like it's an analogy I use all the time in tastings, that there's a 3-sip rule for anyone in the audience that's not a big sour beer drinker. You've got to kind of try 3 sips before you can really decide whether you don't like it. Because the first sip is always a shock. It shocks your palate. The second sip, you condition your palate and you look past that acidity. And the third sip, you actually get a fair representation of beer because your palate's adjusted. And my analogy is always like Tang-fastic sour sweets, because you have the first one, right? And your face turns inside out. You make the Tang-fastic advert face. And then by the time you've got to your 5th sweetie, you're just eating a bag of sugar, and you're all of a sudden it's gone, and then you want more. and it keeps you coming back for more and more.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, spot on.
I'm not sure about you, Adil. Like, you said that leaves you a little dry, and you might want to go back for that second sip. But everything you just said there, Andrew, is like I'm just going back for more because I'm enjoying that. Those two contrasting flavors just work together perfectly, and it's just
bro.
I'll be done with this very soon.
Actually,
I've almost finished mine as well.
I mean, I've got a tiny bit left.
But before we move on from the watermelon, I just want to say, having also consumed more of it, now that I'm getting used to that tartness, I didn't have a sour earlier in the day. The watermelon is coming out a lot more, especially in the aftertaste. Now that my palate doesn't have that tartness, I'm like, I've got watermelon all around. This is great.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that before.
That curve's really kicking back up again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And as you were kind of mentioning it earlier as well, especially with this passion fruit one, kind of within about the first third of the glass, you really got hit with that tartness and with that zip. It was almost like a refresher bar. And then as my kind of palate has conditions acclimatized to that just drops off that little bit, and the fruit is presented not more, but just
slightly differently.
It's
for sure. Yeah, there's another. I love analogies and tangents, so please keep me on course. But one of my favorite analogies is about flavor and the human palate with flavor. Like I was saying, your first taste of that Tang Classic Sour Sweet or your first sip of sour beer is quite a shock. Then you go back for more. If you were to, like I did recently with my 2-year-old kid, if you give them a lemon slice, they bite into it and they make a horrendous face, right? But every single kid will go back for a second bite.
Yeah.
Every single time. And as a parent, it's hilarious. Like, oh, you're so stupid. It's so sour and you want more of it. But it's something the human palate recognizes as a good thing. Whereas if you give a kid blue cheese or an olive or, I don't know, an anchovy, something that's really umami or really bitter, they're going to take one taste. And I mean, my kid's a weirdo and shovels down olives like there's no tomorrow. But they don't like that bitter flavor because the human palate is conditioned to think bitterness is bad. And that's why it takes people a long time to get on that journey, right? Because beer is bitter and hops are bitter. And especially about 10 years ago, there's a huge craze of getting more and more and more and more bitter. And the idea of the lupulin threshold shift, which is the wankiest way to say palate adjustment ever.
Wait, hold on. Could you say that again?
I remember that.
Oh,
because
you guys didn't catch this one?
Which is even worse.
Yeah. So it's the lupulin threshold shift. It's basically your palate adjusting to bitterness.
Right.
So when you first drink IPAs, you do have that chasing the dragon moment, right? Where you drink a couple IPAs and then you want it more bitter, and you want it more bitter, and you want your double IPA, and you want your triple IPA, and you want it to be like pull your tongue off with the rusty pliers kind of level of bitterness. And that's sort of what you do with sour beer as well. People chase that in sour, want it more and more sour. And I think extremes in any circumstance, they're a bad thing, arguably. But I've totally lost what I was talking about, and it was about bitterness. So bitterness is something we have to literally train our palates to get used to enjoy. And that's why you start to enjoy Negronis and blue cheese and whatever else when you're a bit older, because your palate gets used to bitter flavors, you adapt to it, and you start to enjoy the nuances of those flavors. But acidity is something that's built into us from very, very young. That's why sour sweets are such a big thing with kids. Like, sour is a nice flavor. It's just that it's quite shocking, and especially in the context of beer. And if you have a bar or a bottle shop and maybe it's not presented to you in the right way, like you get one of these sour beers in a pint glass, I think someone picking up a pint glass and taking a swig of yellow beer is going to expect it to taste like a pint of beer, which it is not. You know, it doesn't taste like that. It tastes very different. And that can be very off-putting. So it's kind of about context, and it's a little bit about prefacing it and approaching it the right way.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I think that was a good tangent.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's drink these beers. We'll finish them off, and before we jump into beer number 2s for each of us, Andy, give us. You kind of already sort of chatted about Vault City and kind of sour beers as such, but like Vault
really
City,
talk about the company,
Vault City is kind of quite a new brewery. You've only been around like a few years, right?
That's right. Yeah. So Vault City Brewing, I should give it its full title, is 3 years old this year. So it started off as two guys, Steve and Johnny, who came together over a mutual love of homebrewing, and one was brewing mixed fermentation sour beer, kind of old school traditional style, and the other was brewing cloudy New England beers. And between these two kind of styles coming head to head with the two homebrewers, in the middle, we've accidentally created this kind of new style that I've mentioned before of modern sour beer. So we're using the mixed fermentation and the souring process and the house mix culture from sour beer brewing, but then taking the kind of opacity, the bold flavors, the juiciness and the fruitiness of New England's, and all of a sudden you've got this very, very unique style of sour beer. When Steve and Johnny first got going, I was working for Wild Beer. Was it Wild Beer? 2018. It might have been Brewdog Overworks. Honestly, time is just not a thing anymore.
No,
so I worked for the Wild Beer Co down in Somerset. I lived in Bristol, represent.
Oy.
And then I moved up to Aberdeenshire, which is 9/10 the way home for me, to work at the Brewdog Overworks sour program. So I was the first employee in the door. Literally, my first week was hauling on a chain hoist and standing up the fermentation tanks in a big empty room, which then became the mecca that was Overworks. Sadly, no more. I'll pour one out for the barrels in a moment. But I was working for these breweries, which were very barrel focused with Brettanomyces and going mixed fermentation in a much more traditional route. And beautiful beers, very different again beers. There's a whole education piece with sour beer that's really quite unexplored and untapped, where you've got these 3 different breweries making sour beer, and they're all incredibly different processes, different methods, and different flavor profiles that come from the different breweries. And yet on the shelf or online or wherever, it's all just sour beer. So that's a bit of a bugbear of mine for having the education piece going for so long. But that's my my cross to die on, or my hill to die on, I should say. And so these guys started out brewing these kind of super fruited, really quite sweet sour beer. And at the time, I properly scoffed at them. I was like, "This is ridiculous. This is outrageous. This isn't sour beer." Rah, 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 rah. And off I was on my high horse, galloping into the sunset. But then I actually tried some of them at beer festivals. So I bumped into Steve and Johnny, I think at Bristol Craft Beer Festival, and I tried the Strawberry Skies, which is one of the beers we're most known for. It's the only beer that we've brewed more than twice.
Okay.
So we're pretty hot on the not rebrewing stuff, but Strawberry Skies has come around a few times and will forevermore. And the Mango Habanero that they had out at the time as well. And they just blew my mind. I was like, this is so much flavor. It's so the kind of integrity of the fruit flavor is insane. And the way that they're pushing the sour beer is really, really, really exciting. So once I actually sat down and tasted it in a glass, I was totally sold on the idea of this direction of sour beer. I thought it was bloody brilliant. So through that year, so that was 2018 that they got started homebrewing in Steve's kitchen. Then through 2019, they were brewing in the kitchen and took the beer to as many beer festivals as possible. So that's where I kind of met them and had a go on the beer and was totally converted into this modern sour beer trajectory. They were all over the UK and all over Europe as well, getting loads of rave reviews, became the number 1 rated brewery on Untapped in Scotland, which is wicked. We're still there at the moment.
Nice.
And we're kind of climbing up through the UK rank on that as well. Then at the end of 2019, they got the kind of big break. So it was definitely a side project, pipe dream type scenario, fermenting in the basement, brewing on the kitchen stove, 400 litres at a time. Then at the end of 2019, they got the kind of the leap of faith moment to go and actually set up in another brewery called 71 Brewing in Dundee. So for Scottish geography context, about 2-hour drive north of Edinburgh. So off they went to Dundee, bought 2 fermenters, and were able to use the brew kit at 71, but have our own fermenters and our own packaging space and our own little spot. It's mixed culture, so they didn't want this yeast anywhere near their fermentation, which is super valid. But it did mean rolling out 75 meters of 1-inch hose every time we brewed, and a really, really slow casting for catching brews, which was a bit of a pain in the butt. But it was an amazing stepping stone and an amazing leg up, basically. So we went from 400 liter batches on the stove to 4,000 liter batches at 71, which is, a rather large economy of scale going on at that point, and being able to put out a lot more beer, which is ace. So that was the tail end of 2019. Start of 2020 was looking really good. All the like for everybody, all the beer festivals were lined up. Loads of export was coming on board, and Johnny and Steve were still at that point working other jobs. So this was still a side project at that spot. But Steve had given up his job. Johnny was going full time as well, and making the commitment and taking the plunge basically. And that's when they hired me as the first employee in as marketing manager. I came in February, and then I think March, 2 weeks later, is when lockdown hit and everything kind of hit the fan spectacularly. So that's the kind of the pre-me backstory. That's the bit that I don't know as much about as I would like to. But that's the gist of it. These two guys came together with homebrewing. They went from literally homebrewing to commercial brewing overnight, and saw great success while they were doing it, and had this kind of jump up to Dundee. But my throat's getting a little bit sore, so let's crack another beer.
That's a good idea. What have I got next? I'm going in percentage order. So I am going to open next the Mango Inferno.
Oh, you were in for a treat.
Well,
Right,
I should
actually,
rather than going for alcohol percentage, Andy, I've got Mango Inferno, and the other one I've got is Pies in the Skies. If I have the Mango Inferno, am I going to destroy the flavour for the third beer?
No, Pies in the Skies is huge. It's absolutely huge. So I think you'll be fine. Mango Inferno is a biggie, though. It's a biggie.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the Mango Inferno, and spoiler alert, going for the blueberry lemon drizzle sour.
Oh,
Sip,
nice.
sip. So is that a fine? Again,
Oh, yeah. I think you'll be.
That's what I figured. I just
great.
wanted to make sure I wasn't going to,
Yeah,
as Ben put it, burn away.
You'll be. You guys will be tasting chilies all night. Don't worry.
Perfect. Right, I'm going to crack
I had
these.
chilies in my curry earlier.
The chili
Oh, missed opportunity.
It's okay, because I might have another bottle, and I might be cooking for my house tomorrow. And I always even when it's like some people don't like spice that much, I still manage to put chilies in everything.
Gotta be done.
Lucy, what are you cracking into now?
I don't know. Whatever you guys want. I've got 4 beers here. I can
Nice, you're ready to go.
I can have the apple cranberry vanilla sour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess again that's what I've just opened as well, actually.
Oh yeah, why don't we do 2 mangoes, 2
2 and
apples
2.
then?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, I should open mine instead of staring at the screen.
Oh, it looks like ridiculous. This beer is pouring like juice.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'll
big
try
sheet
and
of
for those who watch the audio.
That's nuts.
Oh wow!
Good left-handed giant
Oh
glass.
my god.
Big up.
Is that orange juice? No,
It's
it's
not
like
far
a
off.
fan there. I didn't see him pour it into the glass. Just got some
see.
OJ.
I mean, that's what I do at beer festivals, is just stick some orange juice in my glass. Nobody's the wiser.
Just fresh all day.
Yeah.
Wow! It literally looks like
Look at that.
juice, but with a head, because my on-screen pour was real bad.
I thought it was beautiful.
Thanks. It's one of those things where like I can pour a beer, but then I'm like, oh right.
Now we're doing it.
No
up
one
here.
pours a beer at eye level.
No, it's a special kind of human that's able to do it.
Yeah.
Adel, why don't you give us the flavour text on the back of the
thanks,
Mango
yeah.
Inferno?
Oh yeah.
So it's a
I'll stick it
7.2% modern sour beer. Where are we here? Returning from the past for another turn in the sun. One of the beers which cemented Vault City Brewing and modern sour beer in the UK craft beer scene. Creating a unique and outrageous drinking experience is at the heart of our beers. These chili pepper and exotic fruit sour beers are in a class of their own. Rich and juicy Alfonso mangoes work wonders with our house mixed culture, and the fruity and floral habanero chilies create a fantastic lemon-like counterpoint and a decisive chili kick.
Man, I'm definitely gonna contract you out for voiceovers. That was beautiful.
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Read
enjoyed
it.
it. God,
Ooh, very much forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
It is
Lucy.
big, right?
Yes,
Lucy,
Oh, wow.
give us the flavour text for the apple.
I can indeed. It says we've taken another trip to the bakery for flavor inspiration on this serious sour, finding balance between sweet and sour in our beers and sorry, it's something we strive for, so we can find the perfect balance in an apple and cranberry cream tart. We knew we were onto a winning combination. Tart cranberries match the acidity of our mixed culture fermentation. A fresh crunch of apples keeps the flavors light and sweet. Light and sweet, and sweet vanilla rather, rounds out the finish. I haven't had too many, trust me. All layered on a delicate base. Oh, perfect. It's perfect at the end.
I obviously didn't write that one very well. It wasn't so easy to say.
No. It's I like it. It's like poetry.
We keep saying the apple, but it's an apple, cranberry, and vanilla.
Apple, cranberry, vanilla sour. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one. This is actually one of my favorites we've done for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, big, tart, juicy cranberries. It's almost like biting into a fresh green apple.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I'm excited to try that.
I was about to say it smells like almost like a Granny Smith apple on the flavour. It's very subtle. It's not as just you can smell the watermelon from a mile away.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite
subtle,
pungent as watermelon. Mm-hmm.
This is just, but get your nose in there. It just smells really good.
Yeah, it's a goodie.
Yeah.
And what do you guys think of that mango Inferno? I saw you both react, but you're both very good at keeping stim.
First off, just the nose is frankly, it's like pure mango juice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you had one of those concentrated mango juice things you get like the brand
juice shop.
But like in the like giant juice boxes.
Okay.
I don't know if this would make sense. You can see it in ethnic stores. So where you'd get it in the ethnic aisle at the superstore. I realize I'm Canadian. This means nothing to you guys, but it's what I've got. But they're like it's all fresh juice. It's just a little more concentrated, and so you can or can't add water. It's not quite squash, but it's all fresh.
Yeah. Okay.
It smells like it's like a third of the way down, and you put your nose in, and you can smell that super strong concentrated thing, but it's a little dialed back. So it's like my nose like near the beer is getting me slight like an inch or two away from that like really mango-y thing. So it's like it's that intensity, but like I'm a little pulled back. It's great. It smells like mango. I can't smell any of the.
I got a little bit when I stuck my nose in a little bit more. I got a little bit of just the slightest hint on the nose, but you've got to be looking for it, I think, to just pick it up.
For me, this beer absolutely honks of habaneros.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. We did a pineapple and chili beer at the tail end of last year, and we used Amarillo chilies and habanero and another one, which I think might have been chipotle, and it smelt like a spice rack. It was like earthy and rich and aromatic, and it was intense and it was great, and it was wonderful. But with this one, it's purely habaneros, and habaneros to me are always like lime. So it's got that kind of mango and lime.
Yep.
So there's that little prickle in your nose, and that limey edge to the mango. That for me is just like honking of habanero.
Yeah,
right. And I definitely wasn't getting the heat.
No, there's not.
But I do see what you mean by that liminess.
Yeah.
There's it's a different kind of. It hits different. Okay.
And you absolutely get that lime on the flavor as well. Like it's coming in with that heat and that lovely burn right at the back of the mouth. You get that lime alongside that big mango. It is instant. Yes, it doesn't build up to it. It's just like bam. Here is that flavor, and
it stays.
Yeah. And it's not as dry as the session sour either. So it's still dry, but it's not quite as dry as that. So it feels like it lasts just that little bit longer as well. And getting a slight sort of, tingle on the back of the throat, a little bit on the lips now as well.
Sides of the tongue for me.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
I really like it. So it also like leaves your mouth wet. Like I think maybe the spice is helping because I feel more salivatory, if that was a word.
It sounds like
than
one.
on the previous beer, which means I can kind of just let that mangoness sort of it fades, but that liminess and that heat stay, and but then they sort of like temper off and just stick at that level for better part of a minute now since my last sip, and it's really good because you can just appreciate that balance that the finish is both of them, because when it starts it's this like, hey, there's heat, then there's this like little bit of a juice packet, not a juice bomb, just a juice packet. And then you get, then I think the rest of your taste buds, especially in that first taste, just get hit with all that spice, and you're like, oh, that spice, and then it all sort of blends together and falls away. Now that I've had a couple sips, you're getting the same thing without the ooh of the, oh right, those are chilies. Now the chilies have just never left,
Absolutely.
I'd be really interested to try that pineapple and chilies one though, because as I was saying, like pineapple is just such a subtle flavor and so hard to get across in beer. But I have faith that you would have balanced it. So I'm really interested in that one. But
I don't even think I have any in my personal stash to be able to throw it and give to you, I'm afraid.
Brew it again, get the recipe out.
We'll get the 400-liter pot out. We'll brew it.
Small batch. You have to scale down again to something, so you've got 4 lines. Perfect.
What do you think of the apple and cranberry?
I haven't even tasted it because it's not hyperbole, and just because you're on the show. These are the nicest smelling beers that I've had, because usually it's like, smell a beer, it has especially when they're packing all these citra hops in it, it's like, yes, this smells delightful, let me see where that goes. Whereas this, I'm just so happy just smelling it, because I'm just like,
light a candle in the top of it.
But it and also with the last one, I haven't tasted this one yet, but it doesn't fail to get across those flavors, so it's not like just a little tease and like you're not getting that. But no,
it's a pretty full frontal aroma for sure.
Oh, I love that color.
It's a pretty one.
I mean, I also just love where beer is at, because like, I mean, I grew up in Canada where microbrewing was a thing, but there wasn't as much experimentation as craft brewing. So there was some, but generally like not the past like 10-15 years of craft brew all around the world. And just like I'm thinking like, when I started university back in 2001, if you presented that to me back in whatever that year was, that pinkness, and like I would have been like, what is this? And like, oh yeah, it's a beer. You're like, that's not what beer looks like. And just to know that like that, it's just and it's totally reasonable. And also like craft beers just got to a point where we have these totally non-standard aesthetically looking, like visual aesthetic looking beers that are just, we've been around long enough that you don't see very many like marbled pink beers, but you aren't surprised by it.
No, absolutely.
I think about the only color that surprised me these days is green.
Yes.
And occasionally I get a little bit shocked by green beer, but I'm also a little like perturbed. I see a green beer and I'm like, I appreciate what you're doing over there, but I don't think I want any part of it.
I think green beers is another color I saw growing up, because people would put food coloring in cheap lager on St. Patrick's Day, because North America does this weird thing.
Yes.
Yeah, where everybody becomes Irish for 24 hours.
Yeah. I think humans have evolved to try and stay away from green liquids. So yeah, I can completely say. I don't think I've ever had a green beer. That's definitely one I've not.
That mojito one we had wasn't green up in Birmingham. No, it wasn't green. So no, I don't think I have. This is the sort of thing that'll turn you into teenage Ninja Turtle most of the time.
Yeah. I have had a Phantom Saison that was green. I think it was matcha Saison.
That would do it.
It was pretty medium. It was fine.
Well, I'll tell you what's not medium. It's
have you tasted it now?
The cranberry sour. Yeah, and getting more apple in it, to be honest, like that acidity from the apple.
Yeah.
But I just looked on the back. It's like it's got oats in it, and it just gives you that nice creamy fullness as well. And it's this will probably be a running theme, but the balance between the sweet and the sour is really, again, it's just so good.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're shooting for. Is that
Yeah.
fuller mouthfeel, a little bit of silkiness from the oats, a bit of pillowiness, some sweetness staying in the beer as well from the malt, but then the tartness of our mixed culture being able to match nicely to the acidity that you'd expect from the fruit. So like biting into a Granny Smith apple and like biting into a cranberry, that's the level of acidity we want. We don't want it to be this crazy sour with fruit flavor, and we don't want it to be all this fruit flavor with none of the acidity that you expect in the fruit.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the lovely balance. If you were to go and pick a raspberry off a raspberry bush, I think, not a raspberry tree, and bite into it, it would be sweet and tart, and that's what you'd expect from that flavor. And so with a raspberry sour, that's what we want, is for there to be that initial tartness, but also that sweetness coming through.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do with beer because obviously the fermentation just takes all the sugar out and literally pulls out all the sugars, and you're left with the acidity, the booze, and the flavor. So leaving that little bit of residual sweetness from the malt is huge for us.
I don't know if you've ever been to Attic in Birmingham, but like they're like more fruit forward sour beers.
Cool.
That it reminds me of this because they definitely have that creaminess, and that fullness from the oats, but still having that fruitiness, a little bit of sourness, and it's just really well balanced. And I don't know if I'm just very bad at pouring, but it gives off a lovely, like full, as you say, pillowy head as well to it.
Yeah,
like light pink head. It's just a really good looking beer.
Yeah, I cracked this one earlier in the day as well. It again had a very, very big pillowy head to it as well. So I don't think it's just you, Lucy.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Perfect. Let's enjoy these.
So, should we dive back into the Vault City story?
Yes. Dive back into that and kind of take us on where you've sort of been in the last sort of year over lockdown and stuff. But also then we've had this, like, I suppose, quite big news in some craft beer circles. Not all craft beer circles.
Let's build up that. I might need to crack one of those silly sours before we dive into that.
Yes.
I'm still trying to block out last Thursday from my conscious thoughts.
In a few maybe not so inviting Facebook craft beer groups, there have been a few more angry humans. But you guys have launched a couple of beers into Tesco. As well. That's right. So let's kind of, I suppose, build up to that point.
Yeah, that was literally just not quite yesterday, but not far off it. So let's get right up to that point. I think I finished off with me coming into the brewery and starting up at Vault City in February last year. So at that point, we had two fermenters, two 4,000 litre fermenters, and brewing on the 71 kit. So we were basically jumping into their brew schedule when they had space. Hiring their kit, creating our work with our ingredients, bringing that across to be fermented by our house mix culture, and we were fruiting it and packaging it all ourselves. Now the packaging line in fact, I'll get to the packaging line in a minute because that's kind of the next step. But not long after I started, I think it was the week after I started, we had two new tanks arrive. So we doubled our fermentation capacity. So we went from two 4,000 up to four 4,000 litre tanks, which was huge news for us at the time. It's huge news for any brewery to double their fermentation space. But we had this big influx of space. We filled them up to the brim. We had 4 brand new beers ready and waiting to go. And then lockdown hit, which was ace. And, I've mentioned I worked for a couple of breweries before, and there's always a fire to put out in a brewery. It's kind of my running commentary of working in craft beer, is there's always a fire to put out. And this was just a particularly big one, and it happened to be purple. But, you just got to get on and fight the fire, make the best moves you can to adapt and overcome, and work out how you're going to pivot and what you're going to change and how you're going to move forward. We quickly put together a web shop, hastily put together a web shop on Squarespace, and started putting beer out to consumers straight to their door, which is brilliant. And the uptake on that was absolutely huge. So we had overwhelming support for our web shop and people looking to get hold of the beers. We were basically just packaging out of the tanks as we needed it. So the tanks remained full. That's the safest place for the beer, is to just be in tank. It's completely stable. So we were just packaging as we needed per week, which got a little bit silly because our packaging line, as I alluded to a minute ago, was a gravity-fed manual filler. So if anyone's been to like a petrol station, I should say, late at night, and you do the whole like the drawer thing with the slidey window, and you kind of knock on the glass and ask for something, and then you to get your like loaf of bread, and then like pass the money back through. It was a bit like that. So you had open a door, put the bottle in, close the door, open the valve, close the valve, open the door, get the bottle out, and then go around to the next one. And it was hand capping each one individually, and then
great.
a little labeler and turning the labeler on individually as well. So it was a ball ache, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, I think me and Steve did a 24-hour top to tail shift where it was just packaging one beer for 24 hours, give or take. And that was enough to satisfy the orders for about a week of that one beer.
Yeah.
So it was just like an absolute nightmare. But, you know, it's what you got to do to get your head down and get the work done and get beer out to people. So the flip side of that was that we had loads of kegs sitting around, which obviously isn't great when all the bars are shut. But we were aiming to take these kegs out to festivals throughout the year. So they were like a good backlog of our super hot shit that we held on to take out to these festivals. And with this really manual filler, what we could do is actually fill from key keg. So we hooked our kegs up and put them back into bottle. Well, we put them into bottle because they hadn't been in bottle, right? But you know what I mean? And then we're able to re-release historical beer. So we started up a hashtag Sour Sunday launch, and every Sunday we would re-release one older beer. So we basically started doing launches without having any new beer, and be able to get people excited about the beers that are coming back out again because they hadn't got to try it before, or they did try it and they loved it, and that was a huge thing for us. Up to the point where we had this kind of big online following. Around about this time as well, Johnny, one of the co-founders, actually left the business to go and do his own thing. So he's now started up a brewery called Holy Goat, based up in Dundee. So he stayed up in Dundee and done his own thing, mixed firm sour beer, but going very much in that traditional direction rather than the kind of modern sour beer direction. So creative differences, as I like to call it. But the web shop was really kind of growing arms and legs a little bit faster than I could blink. And then we launched our fourth beer. So we had 3 beers that were selling through. And we launched our 4th and 5th beers at one tank, which were double mash imperial stouts. And it went absolutely bananas. I think we had something like 600 orders in on the one day and sold out the whole batch in like one shot. And then the web shop fell apart. Or more accurately, I fell apart. but regardless, it fell apart. And the only thing we could do was pull the plug. You know, Steve made the absolutely right call to just kill it. Like, turn this off. Let's circle the wagons, get our shit together, and start again with a better platform.
Yeah.
So we migrated to a different platform. Very luckily at that time we got a new bottling line in, which was great. So the new bottling line, to illustrate how important it was, we were able to package in 1 hour what we managed to pack in a full day between the two of us.
Jeez.
So it was, definitely the way forward is get a packaging line, folks. That's the top tip.
Industrial Revolution, who knew?
Yeah. It has its uses, you know. So yeah, that was kind of middle summer. We then, myself and Steve, basically had a wild summer of COVID time, going absolutely hell for leather, and started to get production back up to full strength. So we were launching, I think our busiest 2 months, we launched 8 beers and 9 beers in like July and August.
Wow.
You know when you're a kid and you're running downhill and you just keep throwing your feet out in front of you and you hope that it's going to land and that you're not going to like eat shit and land on your face. That was kind of the emotions that we had running up towards the end of the August. And sort of the same thing happened again, where we had to just pull the plug and go like, let's circle the wagons here, let's see what's going on, because this is unsustainable. And rather than eat shit spectacularly, we wanted to eat shit gracefully. And that's when we started building the team up. So the first guy in the door was a chap called Andy Wilkie, who came in as operations manager. So I don't think Steve will mind me saying that me and Steve are not the most organized of people. And Andy Wilkie is possibly the most organized man I've ever met in my life. So he's the perfect guy to kind of take the rudder and make sure that the good ship Vault City is heading in the right direction. And in between that time, we had a great kind of crew of temp staff through lockdown. So we managed to basically noise up a local bar called Dynamo in Dundee, which is owned by 6 Degrees North, Scottish brewery.
Oh yeah.
Really, really cool guys. And they had a bar in Dundee, which obviously was closed, and all the staff were on furlough. So we approached them, and the general manager, Joe, was basically like, yeah, all of us are keen to pitch in and help out and come and help bottle. So we had this temporary crew of this one bar in Dundee who just saved our bacon throughout all of summer, helping us package. And one of the guys from there actually came on full time with us as well. So he's made the move from Dundee down to Edinburgh to help us open a new site. I'm not quite there yet. So yeah, that was leading up to the end of the year, and the whole move to Dundee was definitely a platform. It was to help Vault City jump to that next level, which was a huge stepping stone for us, and it always meant moving back to Edinburgh. I lived near Dundee, so it wasn't so much of an issue for me, but Andy and Steve were commuting up from Edinburgh every day, which is nearly a 4-hour round trip, which is not ideal. So moving the brewery back to Edinburgh was always kind of top priority. And towards the end of the year, the perfect opportunity popped up in a place called Portobello, which is kind of, the way I describe it, it's a bit like Brighton of Edinburgh. So it's like little Edinburgh on the seaside, beautiful sandy beaches, loads of indie restaurants, loads of like cafes, bars, cool spots to hang out, a real community vibe, but it's been swallowed by Edinburgh over time. And it's a 15-minute bus ride rather than, a 40-minute train. But that's my loose analogy. So this amazing spot opened up where we had an empty shoebox to build the brewery in, and bought our own brew kit, had that delivered just before Christmas, and commissioned it over the Christmas New Year period.
Nice.
So that's the kind of trajectory. We had 1 year at the stovetop in Steve's kitchen, and then we had 1 year in Dundee at 71, and then moved on again to our third year in Edinburgh, back in Edinburgh, to our own kind of custom built facility and shiny new brew kit and that sort of thing. So we didn't go any kind of big jump in size. It's still a roughly speaking, a 40 hec installation. So it wasn't so much about jumping up the amount of volume that we could produce, but it's about doing it in our own time. There's being beholden to someone else's schedule is never great. Never mind when you're trying to brew beer to a release schedule. And then also with getting in a new tank, we didn't want to necessarily put out loads more beers. We actually found that when we were releasing 4 beers every 2 weeks in a kind of 8 beers a month cycle, it was a bit too much beer going out the door. So we dialed that back to 3 beers every 2 weeks, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast. And that's the kind of rhythm that we've settled into and are really happy with, and customers seem to be happy with as well, which is cool.
Yeah.
So lots of variety, but not overwhelming. I think, once you start getting past kind of double digits per month, it starts getting a bit overwhelming to keep up with as a casual consumer. Never mind as, trying to get out to wholesale and export and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's also a thing that it's kind of, I commend you guys on, because it's kind of hard to, acknowledge in our very capitalist world of grow, that actually stay here. It's good for everyone around. Like, this is fine versus trying to pursue we could push out more beers, and also your customers, like you said, if you have loyal customers who want to try everything you've got going, those are the people you're primarily making beer for, you, because they continually buy your beer and it puts the roof over your head and pays for the ingredients for the next beers.
For sure.
That's the relationship, not finding new people all the time such that you need to go. I think it's very easy trap to fall into, and that's also why some people outpace their fans, right? And so it's good to hear that you guys have hit that moment and drawn back.
As soon as you overstep your supply lines, you're done for.
Yeah.
That's like strategy games 101. So that is Vault City Brewing is very much about having fun. There's don't get me wrong, we've worked our absolute butts off for the past year, and we'll probably continue to do so for at least another year or two to get to the point we want to be at. But we're working towards a 4-day working week. That's a big thing that we've always kind of pushed for since the very beginning. With such a small team and such pressure on us right now to get set up in the new brewery, it's just not possible, but we're getting there pretty quickly. And being able to do stuff smarter rather than work harder, like, we'll always invest in the best bits of kit to do the job and make that the common denominator is that we can do more with less and easier without compromising quality, right? And without compromising flavor. That's the kind of number one goal.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Steve's always been very vocal about the fact that he wants it to be an enjoyable business to work for, an enjoyable business. I mean, it's his livelihood and it's his baby, so he wants it to be fun. And yeah, that really kind of rings true throughout everything that we do, from fun flavors to how we source stuff, how we come up with ideas, and how we operate day to day. It's a really, really good company. It's good fun.
Good
spot.
Question: were you always thinking of going on that trajectory of the like packaging line and ramping up prior to the pandemic, or did that really just kickstart?
No, that was all kind of coming anyway. It was all in motion before lockdown kind of happened, and that was what made it a little bit more frightening and a little bit more frantic, is because all of this investment and planning had gone into doing it a certain way, and that way was no longer possible. So yeah, it was all underway, and the popularity of Vault City was definitely outmatching the amount that we could produce. So stepping up production was always the plan, and we're definitely going to step up a little bit more this year. We've got a few more tanks coming in, so we can do slightly bigger batches, but we'll probably still keep the same amount of variety and look to just put more of the same beers out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's interesting to hear, because, like, yes, I think that is the end goal, whilst, you know, still keeping true to your vision and, you know, creating good beer and catering to your audience who've, you know, been there from the start. But like, especially in Birmingham, I mean, you guys down in Bristol, they're established breweries who've been around for ages, canning for ages. Like a lot of the breweries up in Birmingham, they started to can. I don't know their business model or anything like that, but it was sort of like fight or flight at that point. You know, we need to do home deliveries. We can't just rely on our local audience
on the regular ways of doing it.
So interesting to hear that you were doing that before.
Sorry, I should quickly caveat that with sour beer, I think, always presents itself better in bottles. There's I mean, cans and bottles for sour beer is a whole other argument, but sour beer in general, I think it really benefits from being in a bottle. I love having sour beer on draft. It's great, but I do think there's definitely a benefit in having them in bottles. One, from a kind of consumer point of view, if I have a bottle, I'm like, I have to crack it open, you have to pour it in a glass, you're usually sharing it with someone, it becomes an occasion, a bit of a ritual, and it feels more engaging that way. But also just the beer itself, I think, is in a better condition, and is the mixed culture, which is live in the beer, you know, it's happier in a bottle than it is in a keg. From my kind of personal experience, my anecdotal experience. So going heavier on the small pack bottles has definitely always been the plan. Sorry, I kind of more understand the question now. But also, I was definitely rambling a bit there. Sorry. So also the being such a small brewery and being such a small company, it's much better for us to have space on shelves with our branding on there, where you can actually interact with the bottle, you can read the description and understand what's going on in the bottle, rather than just a beer name on a tap board that you get a third of on the off chance without any kind of context at all.
Right.
So from that point of view, and from a kind of brand building point of view, I think that the decision to be predominantly small pack was set for us a long time before. Having said that, I've got a huge amount of respect for the people that did pivot and did do stuff last year to make it happen. I saw a few. I can't remember, so I can't name drop and shame. Not that I would. Any of the kind of bars and stuff like that were doing it last year, but they would kind of tweet out, "Oh, the world's on fire," and like, my business is probably going under. And a big kind of woe is me tiny violin moment. It's like, get in your fucking van and go and give people beer to their door. Like, what are you doing? You're just rolling over and letting circumstance dictate what happens to your business. Like, come on, you're an active participant in this. Get up and be active about it. But that's my bugbear.
And we saw a lot of that in Bristol. A lot of the breweries, like Left Handed Giant, they took everyone out of their bars. and got them on bikes
Yeah,
to deliver
I was
beer
going to
sort
say
of
LHG,
locally.
like chuck them all on bicycles.
Check them on bikes, exactly. Get them
on Park
working.
Street.
Yeah, and various other sort of breweries like Good Chemistry and New Bristol Brewery as well brought in canning lines to put out, because they were primarily sort of like keg beers.
Cask and keg,
Yeah, exactly. So they had to shift their thing, and they're like, right, this is what we've got to do. Let's get it done and be able to put sort of beers back out. And people got quiet for a month or two whilst they were waiting for their kind of canning line to kind of come in, and then they were sort of straight back on it again. So
on one part it was like, yeah, maybe the government should be doing more, but on the other side of it, it was like, yeah, a lot of people just opened up web stores and just in like, you know, your circumstance, Andy, it's like sold out. It's like crash the website. We need to do, you know, heartwarming to see, and it's you know, I don't know.
So.
I mean, liver cringing.
Yeah, but it's just like I don't know many. Fortunately, like none of my local breweries that were, you know, going before the pandemic, they seem to have thrived from it. Like,
there's,
just
I mean,
from that community that they've built, which is great.
I think it's a couple of things. Oh,
go on.
Sure. I think it's a couple of things. One is, well, people didn't stop wanting beer.
No, absolutely not.
But so it really is, like you said, is getting the hustle in to get the product to the customer who clearly wants it. But I think the other part is, when you're sitting at home in the pandemic, actually, you know what? You do want to spend the extra couple quid on a pack of craft beer versus, you know, the Stella you're going to bang back in a field with your friends or in a pub, like when you're just on the lash, because you're not on the lash, and you, even if it's at home and you want a lot, you're just like, oh, well, I want to trade. I'm losing something. I get away with less good beer when I'm out having fun in other ways. I'm definitely not in that situation, so at least get the beer good. And I know this from like friends who like craft beer, but like, you know, when you're at the pub, they're like, yeah, my first one is going to be this much, like it's going to be a really nice one, and then we go whatever the cheapest thing is. It's like, well, actually, I'm just kind of drinking good beer now.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think there's I've not thought about it until you kind of raised that point, but there's almost definitely an element of the kind of elitism and exclusivity and kind of barriers up in craft beer generally. Like, you go to a craft beer bar and it's full of assholes being assholes about craft beer. I think we can probably all raise our hands to being that person every now and again, right? So if you're sitting at home and looking at stuff online, you go, I fancy giving that a go, and nobody's going to judge you if you don't like it, or nobody's going to judge you if you do like it. You can sit in the comfort of your home and drink some delicious beers made by cool people and have a nice time, but then not have to worry about the whole turning up at a craft beer bar and not knowing what any of the beers mean because they're on the board, and you know, you've got pals that are craft beer drinkers, and so you're out of your depth. You either have to rely on them, so you don't actually engage with it really, you just are there for the ride, or you're put off because they know more than you, or you feel silly or whatever. So I think that's actually quite an interesting kind of discussion to have, is how much has that affected people's buying choices.
So you're telling me all my friends are going to be as intolerable as me when I go back out?
Well, I can't say that.
It's a good little pivot to shift on, talking about accessibility, and talking now, I suppose, about accessibility within the marketplace. Because you guys have put some.
You remembered the thing.
Yeah,
you've put some.
It was a good segue that I've ruined by putting a hat on the segue.
Why? Thank you, sir. Yes, you put some beers into Tesco, and as I understand it, and having read the blog post that you've put out, these are unlike what a lot of other kind of breweries have previously done, where you've got, hey, here's our beer in an independent bottle shop, and now here is our beer now in Tesco's, accessible in both places at completely different prices. You guys have gone, here's some beers you won't get anywhere else going into Tesco, so we don't destroy what we already have, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the move. So yeah, we just launched 2 beers in Tesco's, which is kind of the end of the Vault City story, as it were. That sounds really final and official.
Yeah, I think you mean
the end of my backstory. Yeah, we're catching up to date. That's it. That's the one. Don't soundbite that, okay? That's an awful soundbite to have in there.
Oh yeah, we're actually a hit podcast. It was going to get released. It's just like a chopped up version of your story, ending with you saying, "And we're done after Tesco's."
That's it. It's the end of the road. So
Good
yeah,
festival.
into great festival with great beer actually. Then so this year we've got the team up to full strength. We've had Ravi Boss come in as our brewer, who I worked with at Overworks as well, and we took on Joe Cruikshank, who's a bit of a local hero, who's come in as sales and marketing, and we're just about to hire a seventh person as well to help out in production. So we've grown the team from 2 to 7, which is pretty intense. We've increased our tank capacity by, I've tried to work out the math today, I think it's 200%.
Okay.
We had 8, then we got 16, and now we're up at 24. So whatever from 8 to 24 is, I think that's 200, right?
8 to 16 is 100%. So 68, yeah, 200%.
Right? That I mean, it's pretty
8
quick
times
math,
3.
but
Yes, it's 8 times 3.
8 times 3.
20.
I trust you.
100% plus 2 more 100% would be
Right.
3 times as much.
240.
3 times as much as an increase of 200%.
I'm too many beers in to do maths.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I'm the words guy. I don't do numbers.
You've increased your capacity threefold.
Yeah, that's better. That's words. I can deal with words. So big increase in fermentation capacity. We've got our own brew kit, we've got our own site. Like our office now is about the same size as our entire production space back up in Dundee. So
Wow.
that's nice to have a desk that doesn't have glycol lines running past my knees keeping me cold.
That seems kind of charming.
Charming is a good word for it.
Stick.
So yeah, that's kind of us up until this month, and then the big news was that we launched 2 beers in Tesco. So this is the kind of the big next step for us, and a huge kind of step for the business. And I would like to say for sour beer at large as well, because it's a pretty big move putting sour beer into a supermarket. That's pretty out there, especially these modern sour beers that are doing it in a very kind of different and bold direction, and quite an accessible direction, which I think is a really exciting thing for beer in the supermarket. This is happening. But yeah, so we, like you said, very much separated the beers that are going into Tesco from the beers that we're already doing and will continue to do into the indie trade. We've obviously had a huge amount of support from the indie trade and from customers direct and from wholesalers and exporters all over the shop to get us to where we are with putting out these ridiculous beers, which are pretty expensive, you know. And so to put out a beer that's priced at a supermarket level and is very much a Vault City beer. You know, we brewed it all. It's to our spec. It's exactly how we like to make beer. But the economies of scale let us bring that price down. It's something that the blog post goes into in quite a lot of detail. Steve was proper heart on his sleeve moment writing that blog post for a couple of weeks actually to kind of articulate himself in the way that he wanted to, which was just brutal honesty. That brewing is a business, and we need to have the business operate to be able to feed mouths and to be able to make more beer. And like you were saying earlier, Adil, the buying more ingredients and being able to invest in more kit and more people, to be able to do those things, you need to have revenue, and that's just the end of the day. And Tesco actually approached us at the beginning of last year, before lockdown, and we were kind of like, oh, we're not really at a size that we can cope with that yet. We need to delay it. And then lockdown happened, like, oh God, maybe we should try and bring it forward. But that wasn't the right decision either. So we stuck it back to the date that we went with this week. And it's a huge piece for us. But that big fight that we envisaged was kickback from all of our loyal customers so far saying, hey, you're in Tesco, screw you, you're out. And that being the end of the conversation, that's not what we wanted at all, obviously. So taking those beers and putting them in Tesco exclusively, and actually Tesco came up in price quite a lot for us. So they wanted to have a cheaper beer, and we were like, no, this is what we can do. Like, we worked with Tesco for how we could work with our suppliers. We went to our fruit supplier, for example, and said, hey, we need like 7,000 tons of raspberries this year. Can you get us a better price on raspberries for that amount of quantity? It's like, yeah, let me go and check with the farmers, see what the crack is. Yes, we can give you X price. Okay, cool. That relates back into our beer price. We can then give that back to Tesco. We had a huge discussion. I mean, over a year of discussions to make it work for us, but also for them. And yeah, I've kind of lost where I'm going with this a little bit. Beer's definitely hitting home. But having those...
you were just telling us about how you had done all these negotiations to get the price difference, and you wanted to communicate that to your indie fans.
So that kind of that heart on the sleeve blog post from Steve was very much about laying it all out on the table. Like, here is how it is, and a lot of breweries put up this great chat about being super gritty or being super glitzy on the other end as well, and putting this kind of big front on it from a marketing side of things, which hands up, I'm the marketing manager. I take nice pictures of funky beers and shout about all of the nuanced flavor. But at the end of the day, a brewery is a business, and we all want to have a nice time doing it and go to a 4-day working week and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So those things need supported with bigger customers. So it's a tremendously good thing for Vault City. It's a tremendously good thing, I think, for sour beer. The kind of argument from my point of view is that the people that buy in supermarkets are not the kind of people that buy in specialty beer shops. And obviously there's a huge crossover there. I don't want to pigeonhole anyone into any category, but broadly speaking, and the people who buy in independent bottle shops and support independent bottle shops aren't going to be buying beer in supermarkets. So I find it a little bit interesting, let me say, that bottle shops will push back saying that people will stop buying in indie shops to buy in supermarkets, and also the other way around, that bringing people in through the supermarket into the indie bottle shop, although I think that's a lot more plausible. I think if you try a beer in the supermarket and you like it, and you buy it again and you like it, and you buy the other one in the supermarket and you like it, you're probably going to go look for more of it. And maybe you'll get put off by the higher price point from the bigger bottles. Maybe you'll get put off by the craft beer scene in general. Whatever, you might not get there. But people who are looking in that way and curious in that way will probably make the jump to go and give it a go. Whereas I think people that are craft beer drinkers in bottle shops will try the beer in Tesco because of the novelty of it being in Tesco and see if it's any good. And if they like it, they might buy it with their weekly shop. And if they don't like it, they'll continue supporting their independent bottle shops.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's more of a shift.
Bit of a moot point.
There's more of a shift from, say, casual drinker who tries things and then goes to kind of their bottle shop than there is the other way. I think those numbers would kind of stack up to show that people would move more into going to support indies than it would coming the other way. But also, and we, the three of us, are guilty of this, but we rarely buy the same beer twice. Yeah, we are always looking for new beers, new styles, different styles from new breweries, and just constantly changing up what we're doing. There are a few staples that we might pick up, and yes, occasionally on the odd trip to a supermarket or something, you think, oh, it's a really nice weekend, I'll just grab a 4-pack of this.
Yeah,
and that's kind of, but it's not part of. Yeah, and it doesn't replace what we would buy kind of elsewhere. Really, no. I would say that's a big proportion of craft beer drinkers as well.
Oh, I disagree.
Okay,
but Lucy had her.
I was just saying we've been recording since like Beavertown started selling to the high street stores like Magic Rock, Cloudwater now as well. Like we've all been on the point where it's like out of convenience we will get like something from Northern Monk out of from Tesco because there's nothing else that way.
And I would pose the question just before you jump in, Adele, that how many of you have actively bought less from craft beer bottle shops for the convenience of picking up craft beer in a supermarket?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, we're still always going to go to the my favorite. If Daya, for example, like one of my favorite breweries in the country, started selling Tesco, some of the quality doesn't go down. I'm still going to buy from them. I'm still going to buy from even if they have the core line that's going to Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, wherever. If they're still brewing good beer where they are, which I think will be more obvious for the people who were there from day one and having those fresh beers that they can maybe buy from a bottle shop on draft. Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I think there's a huge argument to be made as well with hoppy beers going to supermarkets being quite a difficult thing, especially with the lack of refrigeration and with short shelf lives and certainly shorter best befores rather than actual end use by. But that's something that, again, we don't particularly have to worry about with our beers. We've got
right.
live mix culture.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the live mix culture and the acidity actually preserves them really well. So we have a 2-year bottle date. 2-year best before on our bottles. And we're pretty confident in that. Yeah, it's the quality of the beer is not going to diminish. It might change a little bit. You might get a little bit of evolution, a little bit of re-fermentation, a little bit of flavor development from the mix culture, but they're going to be perfectly delicious in 2 years' time as they will be in 2 weeks. We definitely think you should drink them fresh. Generally, fruit flavor does evolve and diminish, but then you get some more interesting fermentation flavors. So, it's a swing and a roundabout. But we also don't brew with hops. So we don't brew with hops in any of our beers, apart from the ones that we state hops all over the front. But for the most part, there's no hops in the kettles. There's no bittering hops, and there's nothing to get skunked. There's nothing to oxidize. And the mixed culture is oxygen scavenging, in fact. So if there any oxygen does get in, then the mixed culture will munch that up again. So it's a total moot point for us on the kind of cold chain. Like, these are shelf stable beers, but I totally appreciate that the conversation is not just about our beer. The conversation is about craft beer in general, and that's a different conversation.
And
I was good.
I'm sorry, Adam.
Yeah, you were going to disagree. Apologies.
No, I was going to disagree just with the point that we're not normal people. Yeah, we're not normal craft beer drinkers. No, but like I know people who drink craft beer, but also are in this middle ground of, I found the ones I like.
Yeah,
I like the quality. I don't need to keep searching, and I don't know the numbers or the statistics, but I think these conversations are so polarized that we also forget that there's a difference between always searching for a new one, and even us, because the podcast is a reason why I don't ever settle for a thing, and I just got used to being like, what's a new thing, because I'll buy several new beers in a week, and 2 of them will be reserved for the podcast, but also because I don't know which ones, I'm probably going to get several new ones. But if I didn't have the podcast, I might get some old staples, right? Sure. So I think we're a bad measure that way, but I do think we're forgetting the people who find the thing they like, or a brewer they like, and they just stick with that. And if the brewer comes out with new things, like I got a friend who just loves Wiper and True, and they've got, for good reasons. I wasn't trying to say that with a downturn, but and he does like the variety, because of course, this month's kaleidoscope's not going to be the same as one that you had 6 months ago, because they do what they do, right? But he's happy with that regularity of a kaleidoscope is still going to be a kaleidoscope from Wiper and True. It's just going to have different notes, and he's comfortable with that type of variety. And so I think it's perfectly plausible that someone might not enter this. So we just missed that segment. But why I want to bring this up is they're also not the people who's doing a lot of. They might be doing a lot of shopping at a bottle shop, and they might switch, but for them to switch, it's still kind of they need to like that one over here more than over here, but that's just a matter of time anyway. Someone puts some other shop carries the beer that this person wants, and they just want to have this beer regularly. They're gonna, if they find a new one and actually like this more, they'll switch to it. And so while I'm bringing them up, I don't think it changes the equation that we're talking about, which is essentially people who are enthusiasts who go to bottle shops are looking for new, but they're also looking for just this level of quality. And you know what? I might be like, I think I want a Vault City. I'm still going to go to the bottle shop, because what else is there that I might not have figured out? That's the mind of the craft beer enthusiast. And so they're always going to go to the place where the variety is,
for sure,
outside of lockdown. So I think, I could go to Tesco's, but then if I go there and I decide I didn't want that one thing I know they had, I'm now stuck with, I'm not going to say other brands that I know are at Tesco's, because I don't want to slag people, but you know what I mean? I'm now stuck with a lesser variety.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've walked through Morrison's, which is my local supermarket, and gone, I'll go and have a look at the beer, and I've had that, and I go, this is nice. I could have that, but I've already got 10 cans of varied brewers, various styles at home that I've picked up from a bottle shop. I'm not going to bother getting anything today. I'm just going to go and enjoy the beers I've already got.
Exactly. That's what I think it comes down to in supermarkets for the most part. I think this week will be very different. I think there's
Yes.
a lot of breweries going to supermarkets, and there will be a glut of people kind of wading in to either have a go or just to be curious and nosy as to what it's like, which is absolutely fine. But then once this week sort of dies off, I do think that it's you pick up some beers with your weekly shop. You don't rush to Tesco to buy craft beer.
Yeah.
I would struggle to imagine baskets at the checkout with only craft beer in them.
That's me sometimes going to Tesco.
I mean,
Didn't come here for milk.
I didn't want to point any fingers, but so yeah, it's really interesting to me and seeing how the industry's kind of come back and spoken about it. It's obviously a very, very hot topic, and I do not work in a craft beer bottle shop, so I can't have any anecdotes from that side of things. And I do wish someone was always here to chime in from that front when I say anything about it. However, certainly from my kind of anecdotal experience, it's not quite the doom and gloom that some people would say it is. And we actually saw from our comments on Thursday when we put the blog post out and kind of made the announcement that it was happening. I was absolutely shocked. So I started the day dripping in sweat, like anxious as the day is long, and just dying for the end of the day when I could crack a beer and forget it all happened. So thanks for bringing it up for me. But myself and Steve were both like, I had my laptop, I've got 2 screens up at work, I had my phone out, and I was like on all 4 screens for about 4 hours, constantly responding to people, putting stuff out, talking about people, having conversations, putting them in different places. And Steve was doing the same thing from his personal account as well. So on forums, on the blog, on our social media channels, on email, it was just absolutely flooding in. And I was so overwhelmed. I was almost at the point of tears with how positive it was. It was incredible. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. I think I counted less than 10 negative comments.
Wow.
And of those, half of them were pretty neutral comments, I think. I hope the people that made those comments think that's a fair assessment. But they were along the lines of like, hey, I don't like this, but I totally get it. I read your blog post. I think it's great for you guys, but I'm out. And for me, that's obviously a negative comment, but also with a lot of decorum, which I thought was great. There's a lot of people kind of jumped in and said, hey, I'm going to be brutally honest here. And then we're actually very civil and pleasant, which was really nice. And I don't know how much of that is down to Vault City as a brand, and we're very friendly and open and honest about everything. And like I ended up retyping the same comment several times, which was honesty, clarity, and tasty beverages. and that's kind of what it's all about. We're here to do what we do, and we've never pretended to be anything different. And that is making tasty beers and being honest about what we're up to and how we do it. So I think there's the big honesty part was huge for us, but also our kind of history as a brand and what we've been up to in the past. I think people kind of got it a bit more, and also I think that kind of very open and what's the word I'm looking for? Not sensitive, that's the wrong word. Vulnerable, maybe. That's also not a good word. But in that kind of vein,
It's fine. Yeah.
There's in that kind of vein, we opened ourselves up to it and said like, here it is, cards on the table, like heart on the sleeve. Here it is, let's have it. And people respected that. I went, you know what? I think Steve's favorite comment from the whole day was somebody just commented, "Fair fucks," and that was it. I was like, yes, this person gets it. That's brilliant. Yeah. So that was kind of the overall takeaway from it. Those people were incredibly thrilled for us to be making this big business move, and they're really excited to be able to get Vault City beers where they normally couldn't. A lot of people don't live near a specialty craft bottle shop. That's the other echo chamber bubble thing that we were talking about. Is that these conversations are so insular, and we are not normal people. You're absolutely right. Like we're definitely in the minority that we go seeking out ridiculous beers at ridiculous prices all over the place. Whereas a lot of people don't live in an area that they're able to do that, which is is by the by, that's just what it is. But now they're able to go to Tesco and pick up sour beer, modern sour beer on the shelves in Tesco, which is, in my opinion, fucking dope. So
yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we've been saying every time this conversation comes up about, because we have episodes like, they're now in, Brewery X is now in Supermarket Y.
Yeah.
And the conversation is almost always along these lines, and then we kind of always conclude the same way, which is more access is better, and if the quality of the beer is fine, and we even say this about We're Heretics, as we've said this about takeovers. Like, if a corporation takes over a craft brewer but lets them do their own thing, that's fine. Historically, almost never happens.
Almost never,
right?
yeah. You're right.
But the point is, what matters is, are you treating your customers okay, and are you making good beer? And anything outside of that is just people not liking other people having access that's different, which is just like
gatekeeping.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you, and especially when it's like, oh, it's in a supermarket, I won't have it. It's like, oh, you're an asshole.
I did not say that, but I think.
This is,
no, that's purely us.
PhD calling you an asshole.
You may not name drop or say X and Y, but it's like I've seen other beers in Marks and Spencer and brew by numbers in Marks and Spencer, and I'm always like,
I do always wonder about that.
Creme. Do not just stock your one brew by numbers. I'm like, why is there not more? Do more. I'm always like, I want more of these in Tesco. As if I could just go to my local Tesco and pick up, every beer under the sun, I'd be happy. But I'm also happy to just go to the brewery, go to the bottle shop, support
sure.
as well. It's not a replacement. It's just an addition. It's an addition for me to spend more money.
Dangerous. A dangerous addition.
Sure.
And I was going to say, like, you sweating and, tearing up when you made the announcement, I was just thinking that might be the Habanero chili beer.
Yeah, that was the Habanero chili the night before.
Talking of beers, I've opened a beer.
Oh, you've already opened yours?
I was going to say, we're cracking on a little bit on the old schedule. So
we are.
Yeah,
we've only got a little bit of time left this evening. I do want us to touch a little bit on gaming, Andy, because
of course,
we had a little bit of a chat about that over messaging. But I have opened up Pies in the Skies, which is an 8.5% beer. The flavour text says synonymous with sunshine. Our Skies series is back with a modern sour beer mashup, taking two of our favourite silly sours and blending the concepts together for a transformational beer. Double crust raspberry pie and strawberry skies meet in an explosion of red berries and pastry goodness. Two of our most loved and highly sought after beers are united in one bottle. Rich, juicy raspberries and strawberries, amplified by hibiscus flower and our house mixed cultures fermentation, rounded out on the finish with lashings of vanilla and pastry-like biscuit character.
Beautiful.
Is anyone else drinking Pies in the Skies?
I believe Lucy might have.
Oh.
Are you still on the pies?
You got it.
Are you on the pies?
I will be on the pies.
Nice.
Right.
Adel.
Pies and Skies is wild.
Yes. I'm drinking the blueberry lemon drizzle sour.
Oh yes.
It's an 8%. What is this? Oh, a modern sour beer.
Oh. Hey, look at that. What are the chances?
Yeah. So, one area of inspiration for our modern sour beers we are particularly fond of is baked goods. This silly sour recreates a blueberry lemon drizzle cake in tart liquid form. A heavy dose of local blueberries provide a deep, rich berry backbone. Sweetness from the berries and a malt bill is topped with a vibrant lemon drizzle. Zest bursts from the aroma and lingers on the finish, where together with the acidity of our house mixed culture, the citrus turns the spotlight back on the blueberries.
Right.
Nice.
Great copy.
Thank you.
Andy, what beer have you cracked?
I've gone in for the blueberry lemon drizzle as well, although there's a bit of a trend and a theme running through the beers in my house where I take all the pictures for the beers.
Yep.
And read the copy and stuff like that. And more often than not, the beers haven't been packed yet when I take the pictures. So I have to get a label and stick it on another bottle to make it look like the beer. So I've just cracked blueberry lemon drizzle, but I am not convinced that's actually the blueberry lemon drizzle. Can I just see the color of your beer?
Oh yeah, this is.
Yeah, that looks a little different.
Yours looks a little milkier. It looks like apple cran, actually.
Yeah, I think this is apple cranberry just with a blueberry lemon drizzle label on it. Like that's
What?
exactly.
I mean, that's great to me. It's less good for you. You're not getting what you're thinking, but that's a great story. I love that.
I was really
Yeah, mate.
excited that I picked up the right bottle there out of the pile, but nope, sadly not.
Just did I drink it then? It will forever remain a mystery. Because I had the the blueberry and lemon drizzle.
Oh no, you would have had the blueberry lemon drizzle. It's just the beers in my house. You're all good. Don't worry.
Just
That's
the
full
special,
flavor.
the special
Blueberry
beers.
lemon drizzle is blueberry lemon drizzle.
I really like that peek behind the curtain of like, yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? Marketing, you got to get things ready
Yeah, you gotta
beforehand,
get it
etc.
Yeah, every now and again it slips ahead of us, but I yeah, there's yeah. I was about to reveal a secret too far, but we'll hold on to that one until we stop recording.
Sounds good. How is the potential apple cran?
Oh, this is the pies in the skies.
Oh, I'm asking
Oh,
It's,
sorry.
Andy.
it's delicious. It tastes exactly like the last beer I poured, which was the apple cranberry vanilla.
That's what I was like. I'm pretty sure that's. I was not totally keeping track. Oh well, I'm sorry to hear
It's
that
all good.
because you don't get a new flavor. But I
don't
guess you're
sweat it.
used to most of these.
I've had a few of these before. It's all good.
How about
The
how is the
pastry?
pies
Yes,
in the skies?
the pies in the skies. Lucy, why don't you crack us off?
I was just gonna say, like, when I smelled it in the bottle, I didn't even associate the pies with it, but it just smelled like that very like slightly burnt brown sugar, like
Yeah,
kind of
like demerara type.
Yeah.
yeah. You leave a pie in it, it gets that nice crust on it, and
Yeah, that's the way.
I mean, just
Yeah.
looking at the bottom, back of the beer, it says double crust, and it's just like, yeah, I'm there. Again, I'm just smelling it, Ben. So you drink it.
No, and that comes through very much in the flavour, and that
For sure.
that sort of pastry flavour runs all the way through. So again, whilst it is a big flavour and it's full of fruit, there's just that nice pastry kind of backbone to it that just stays and stays and stays, and the fruit kind of kicks in and lifts a little bit, and is a little sharp in places, but it just balances out very nicely with that sort of that pastry backbone.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm just staring at the coloring of it.
Yeah,
It's like right at the end, just when I think it's like slightly going to get into too sweet or sour, just pulls back
Yes,
all of a sudden. And
Oh, that's brilliant.
it's
these
very
are-
very easy.
This beer, this Pies in the Skies beer, is as you mentioned in the description, a kind of mashup of two of our favorite and most popular beers. So we did a double crust raspberry pie, which was huge for us, a big success, and kind of one of the biggest sort of baked goods inspired beers that we'd done down that sort of pastry sour route. And also Strawberry Skies, which I mentioned before, is sort of the prototypical modern sour beer. It was the first beer that really put Vault City on the map, along with the Mango Inferno, which I mentioned at the very beginning when I first tried the beers at Bristol Craft Beer Festival. It was the Strawberry Skies and the Mango Inferno that I had to go of. And they were the beers that really made waves and really made a big impact in the beer scene with what Vault City were up to and still are up to. And that's now coming around again. So we brewed that one on the kitchen stove. We brewed it twice in Dundee, and we're going to brew it at the end of this year in Edinburgh. And it will be an annual release forevermore, the Strawberry Skies. But the idea of the pies in the skies was a little bit too good to pass up. So we mashed these two recipes together. So the Strawberry Skies is strawberry, hibiscus, and vanilla. And then the raspberry double crust pie is the huge raspberry dose and all the malt bill and sugar to give you that pastry kind of character.
yeah, and it's just it doesn't taste like, what is it, 8.5%?
No, not at all.
Just
A
like the
lot.
blueberry jams.
Yeah, our
and-
beers are pretty notorious for that side of things, of being pretty
That's
up
our
there,
favorite
maybe
thing.
being actually being super smooth. And that all comes down to our house mix culture, you know. Our mix culture is a landrace yeast combination for the most part, which is all like the Baltic area of farmhouse. So not the Scandinavian side, but the other side.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of any of the countries there right now, unfortunately. But-
Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia.
Lithuania sounds good. That sounds like something I've heard before. So yeah, that's kind of the territory that these yeast strains have come from, among other places as well. And they're very, very good fermenters. They're very voracious fermenters, but they kick out like this beautiful fruity tropical character, and also don't have any real kind of big burny, boozy off flavors at all.
Yeah.
They're actually very forgiving on that front. They don't really kick off that many off flavors. When they do, it's spectacular, and that's when we pour beer down the drain. We throw away about 10%, I think, of our beer.
Wow.
So we throw away a lot. People keep asking, when are you going to put out a bad beer? It's like, well, never, because it's a bad beer.
Yeah.
That's not what we do, right? So our kind of mantra is, if it's not a solid 9.5 out of 10, then it's a bust for us. It's
not a Vault City beer.
Enough. Yeah, exactly. And if it's not a Vault City beer, we're not going to put it out.
What about like Safe Town? Could you have an off-brand called Safe Town?
Safe Town. Average alley.
Yeah, because even though it looks quite thick and you've got the oats and the cream in it, it's not a heavy beer. And obviously the sourness is, counteracting anything that you get from the viscosity and the heaviness.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just as easy drinking as, say, the watermelon one that I had first of all. I think the only thing that's... I'd say this is even easier just to drink than the apple cranberry one. Because I feel the apple cranberry one had a little bit more acidity, so it was like pausing to drink that one. Whereas this is just as easy as the watermelon one.
I mean, I agree. This is the easiest and smoothest beer I've had this evening, definitely. Yeah.
It's funny how as the beers progress, they get a little easier to drink too.
That's true. Yeah.
It's funny.
Sometimes.
Adil, we'll come to you for the blueberry lemon drizzle.
Blueberry lemon drizzle. How are you making of that?
Okay, so it smells like blueberry lemon drizzle. It smells like literally one of my housemates in lockdown made a cake. It smells like this cake. That's what it smells like. It smells like a lemon drizzle cake. To be honest, though, the lemon, it's very lemon forward on the nose, and the blueberries are nice in the background. So you can kind of just be like lemon drizzle, and then when it's like, oh, it's not just that tartness. There's some sweetness, and you're like, oh, that is actually blueberries. And I think you mentioned the blueberries are one of those awful, mostly water things.
Yeah, for sure. They're quite difficult to get blueberry flavor in a blueberry beer.
Yeah, so I think it's that nose just immediately gets you that there's that sweetness behind the lemon, so you feel like lemon and cake, but it is a blueberry sweetness, and I think it's not. It is blueberry, but it's blueberry in the background just because of the nature of lemon being very forward and blueberry being very
for sure.
Yeah, reserved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This is a really exciting one for me. Just I love blueberry lemon drizzle cakes. And that's a big one for me. My blueberry muffin with my lemon curd in the middle. I'm into that. But yeah, the lemon character being right up front on the nose and right up front on the palate as well.
I was just saying, and the taste, yeah.
And you get this big kind of citrus lemon hit, which washes off into this big, rich, almost velvety blueberry. And the big body really helps there too, that it fills out, and it's almost like biting into kind of lemon frosting on top of a blueberry sponge, something like that. And that bit of sweetness that comes through is very cakey.
Yeah, what I will say is I like that the initial hit, which is a little more zesty. I'm sorry, the initial hit is lemon, and then it pulls back, and in the background, while you're getting all the other flavors, there's still lemon there, and it's more zesty. It's a little more peaky, touch more bitter. Yeah, like it's zest versus just a bunch of juice. But I think that helps stitch the rest of the beer together. It's 8%. Yeah. Dangerous. I mean, this isn't even my favorite type of pudding.
The liquid version.
But it's real good. I'm finding myself really happy with the aftertaste. I love the blueberries sitting there. There's like a light. I mean, compared to the maltiness that was in the watermelon, it's very light, but it's giving some body and that cakiness in there. Yeah. So it really is just like that feeling after having a slightly too big a slice of cake.
Yeah.
And so it's like I've had a lot of it. The taste is sitting in my mouth. That's the feeling I'm getting when I'm with this undercurrent of just consistent zest.
Yeah.
But what I'm really liking is that hit of lemon. So like if I happen to be preferring right now that like lemon hit. So otherwise, I think I could nurse this beer something fierce. Like I could just let it sit because those tastes are just sitting there and they're very luxurious and it's like not quite decadent, right? It's just like because like decadent in the sense of like enjoying your dessert slowly, not decadent in the third sense of like these really deep, rich flavors. It's actually these light, very strong flavors, but aren't those like, you think decadent, you think like deep chocolate and maybe I don't know, a cherry from the other side of the world that was grown by a penguin or whatever these things are.
I mean,
I want that beer now.
Vault City beer.
I'll find you the cherry, and then you can make a beer out of it.
That sounds great.
My analogies also go out the window after a couple of beers.
That's fine. We're in good company.
So what I like about it is it sits there, and so if like I could see myself, especially like at the end of the day, just nursing this, but I can also see myself at the beginning of the evening starting with this and just like chasing the bit of the lemon hit while being able to take my time switching back and forth. It's a really interesting gear shift because it flows really well, but there is, on subsequent hits, I'm still getting enough lemon from the initial, like there's a burst of lemon on every hit. So if I wanted that lemon, I can get it. But if I want that like cakey blueberryness, I don't have to do anything. I can just let it sit in me.
All by itself.
Nice.
Yeah, really great.
That's wicked. That's a great way to put it.
Good. Yeah. Let's just finish out the episode just with I suppose a brief 5 minutes, Andy, just to touch on video games. I know you've mentioned a couple of video games you play, but what's your usual sort of game that you like to play? Is it something that you kind of all get into at Vault City?
So we, so personally, I like a kind of broad range of stuff. I'm not particularly tied into one genre of video games at all. I'm a console player. I don't have a PC, unfortunately, so I'm a PS4 kind of guy. So a little bit restricted to that. But I've actually been, this beautiful studio white wall behind me is actually my kitchen. And I've been kicked out of the living room tonight to do my podcast. My partner is playing Final Fantasy X-2, the remake. we downloaded her for her birthday a couple weeks ago.
Oh, 10. Nice. That's the
all female
and Yufa. Yuna. Yeah, the change your clothes, change your role type game, right?
I think so. Actually, I think she's playing through 10 just now. It might be 10 and 10-2 in the same bundle. So she's playing through Titus's story.
Okay, yeah, then it's 10. Yeah. Sorry.
So we're getting a good nostalgic hit. I saw a post the other day that it came out 20 years ago, not like a few days ago. I was like, oh man, that hits different.
Jeez.
Yeah, 20 years of Final Fantasy X. Yeah. Anyway,
I just realised that every guest is more qualified than me because every guest plays Final Fantasy and I don't.
No, but that's why you're qualified, right? Because we need a non-Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah. I'm a big fan, but I've not played any of the games, I have to admit. Or I've dabbled. I've had a little go here and there, but I do love them, but I've never actually completed one of them. So that's my
that's fair.
My admission to Final Fantasy scene. So I like a huge amount. I'm currently replaying The Witcher 3 for the third or fourth time because I fucking love it. And I've just got off the back of a couple of other kind of role-playing games. Played through Last of Us 2, which was ace. Really enjoyed that from both sides of the story, which I know is a bit controversial.
Not here. No, absolutely not here. No.
Good. So before that,
I don't actually know what it means because I've avoided all spoilers on 2 because I've still yet to play 1. I knew there's controversy, but that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, there's controversy. It's good. You'll enjoy it. So and before that, I rinsed through God of War really quickly, and surprise favorite game ever, I think, is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, nice.
Not that much of a surprise.
My favourite game was 2017, so you're in good company.
Wait,
Now-
what year did it come out?
2017.
2017, 2018? Yeah.
No way.
2017.
It was. Ooh. Now available through the PlayStation Play at Home thingy. Came out today, I think, for
I'm
anyone
really
that
glad
has a
I
PlayStation.
bought it and played 3 hours of it and haven't touched it, and now it's new.
Hey, you can get it for free,
I mean,
with the DLC. From
with the
today.
DLC? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Well, now, do you think if I own the original, will it give me the DLC for
No,
free?
probably not. It'll probably all completely break and
probably
destroy the
those 3
console.
hours in 2018 or whenever I finally bought it have just ruined me from getting free everything.
Yep.
Nerds.
No, but that was,
What were we saying? Oh yeah, you were telling us about RPGs, and I was all like, Zero Dawn.
Your favourite game? Horizon Zero Dawn.
that's my kind of recent playthroughs. But then at Vault City, we've got a Switch in the brewery, so we're big on party games.
Nice.
Surprise outliers. A chap I named earlier called Haig, who came from the Dynamo Bar to be part of our kind of tent packing crew, is now full-time and moved in with us. Haig's one of my favorite human beings. He's just brilliant. He didn't have a smartphone until he came to Vault City because he needed to be able to have emails on his phone. So he had like a flip phone, and he's had the same flip phone for I think about 12 years, which is great.
Good lad.
He's a very talented musician, and hates all kind of forms of technology, I think. But he's actually building us a old school arcade machine. So he bought an arcade machine with one of his pals, and he's in the process of doing it up. So like Time Crisis 2 type era arcade machine.
Nice.
And he's going full Raspberry Pi with all the games on it. So there's a joystick button bashing, and then there's also the guns as well, the gun holster.
Which means he sourced a CRT.
Very possibly. I tell you what, I will off air send you pictures and
please do.
Because it looks incredible. But unfortunately, he's a little bit too busy on the packaging line at the moment to be working on it too much, which is a shame. But yeah, so we just the other day had a bit of a blast on Mario Kart, and quite a few of us are gamers. Joe's a big gamer. Steve, the owner, is a big gamer. He's really into COD. Apparently, his kill-death ratio is impressive. I don't know what that means. But that's fun. And
one, I think that means. Anything above 0.5 is good.
So yeah, we're all kind of big gamers in different respects. But Haig came out of nowhere and absolutely thrashed us all at Mario Kart. Like,
Nice.
Completely thrashed it. Having prefixed it with, so what are the controls? And then just absolutely killed it. And
Of course.
At the end of the first race, he's like, yeah, man, it's just like the N64. It's all transferable.
I was waiting
The
for,
ultimate
it,
hustle.
for the like, it's this one.
Yeah. So
And my problem is I cut my teeth on Mario Kart on the DS. And then the Switch Mario Kart is different. So the way you get blue sparks is different, and so I have so much muscle memory. I worked in IT for a long time, and every lunch hour we all used to play 8-player DS Mario Kart in the break room. And so I see that, like, my brain is like, right, you're starting to slide, hit your bumpers in this way, you'll get blue sparks. And in fact, what it does is hop you around and make you go slow. And it's like, oh, cool, I suck at this game. Like, I fundamentally have, because of a game in a career I haven't had for over 10 years, I can't play this new game.
The only one I've ever liked or really played is the original on NES. And then I was at a bar and they had like Tony Hawk, and I just destroyed everyone at that. But they had like Mario Kart and N64. I'd never had an N64, so I was like, where do I put my finger?
I wear it on my head.
Yeah, what is this?
Why are there so many prongs?
Why is it 3D?
I mean, all I think of when I think of N64 is just ba-da, ba-da.
Yeah, 100%.
Done.
With the big head code.
Yes. Like slaps only, odd job, just running around, just chopping constantly.
Oh, I was going to ask what a game, and now I forgot.
Well, I think for the evening we are out of time.
Yes.
So it would be
talking so much about beer. I'll have to come back on and talk about video games.
absolutely.
Sounds great. We'd love
be
to
great
have
to have you
this
back.
back.
Yeah, completely. Andy, if people want to get hold of you, get hold of your beers or follow you on the socials, where do they come to do that?
Excuse me, taking a sip of my beer. So yeah, all the Vault City socials are Vault City Brewing with various forms of @ and slashes beforehand. So Vault City Brewing will get you through all of our social media, so that gets you straight through to me as well. If you want to take a short path, if you want to take the longer response path, then you can get me at Vault City Andy on pretty much everything with / and ats before, or drop us an email to info@vaultcity.co.uk. And you can get through to that email address to our website as well, which is vaultcity.co.uk. So all pretty straightforward. Say it like you see it, name of the brewery, and nearly every way that you try and get in touch will be me on the other end. So
Nice.
come and say hey. That'd be cool.
Perfect. Good. Are you guys lined up for any festivals for the summer?
Yeah, so we just got confirmation through today. We're doing the Edinburgh Craft Beer Festival, the Manchester Craft Beer Festival, and the London Craft Beer Festival, all
Nice.
Bristol Craft Beer Festival fame. I'm still trying to work on them to get me a spot in Bristol because I like coming back to Bristol for 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely.
Come to Birmingham,
So I'll
please.
definitely hit you
wouldn't
guys
mind.
if we do. Oh, the Beer Central one's off the list. No chance. Yeah, no, we'll swerve on that one.
Next year,
No,
then.
there's if we can on that one as well, we'll be there with swimwear.
Nice.
So trying to get out to as many as we can this year and try and see as many people as we can, which would be ace. Then we're going to Liverpool Craft Beer Expo, which is one of my personal faves. A couple of pals of mine run that one, and also the Derby Craft Beer Festival as well, which is the one down that way. Which is
That's good spread.
Yeah, I think
Keeps
that's all of
busy.
them. I've probably forgotten a really important one, but I'm sure they'll forgive me.
Again, if people follow you on the socials, they'll be plastered sort of as and when those announcements sort of come up as well, sort of thing. So yeah,
Absolutely. I'll make sure everybody knows what's going on.
good, perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. If anyone wants to get hold of us, we are Tanked Upcast almost everywhere. I'm at @Nova_47. Lucy is JuicyLuce9. Adel is at the Omniarch. If you want to play games with us, you want to talk beer with us, come and join our Discord server as well. Shoot one of us on the socials, and we will send you that. There's no time to talk about favourite beers. I've got to go. I mean, hang out and chat between yourselves about favourite beers.
all good.
But I mean, they're all
How about that?
I mean, to
amazing.
be honest, I was going to
They're
say
all
it's a tough call,
excellent.
so they're all good.
There we go.
So, no worries.
Cool. That's fine.
Good.
All right. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been an absolute blast.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry
been
that
great,
Tom
man.
wanted
It's
to
been
do
it's been excellent
Yeah.
having you on and kind of getting
Thank you
into it
also.
and getting into the beers as well and delving a little bit more into each of these different beers that we've been sort of
for sure.
tasting this evening as well. So yeah, it's been really good to have you on. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining us.
I appreciate all of your time.
For you, listener, thank you for joining us this evening. Or whatever time of day you're listening to us, please, if you can, rate, review, and all of that sort of stuff on your podcast service or listening service, watching service of choice. That would be perfect. For this week, we have been Tanked Up. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net